Here are the players that I refuse to leave on my bench coming into week 8 of fantasy football. If you have them, make sure to start them. They will go absolutely nuclear, no questions asked. Like the video as we get into it. If you want some good luck in fantasy football this week, I would really appreciate it as a content creator. But let's get right into it with DeAndre Swift. He is averaging 23.8 fantasy points per game over the last 3 weeks. He leads the team in red zone snaps. That is the one thing, the last piece of the puzzle that we needed to guarantee DeAndre Swift to be a start and a nuclear start every single week. There was Roschon Johnson, there was Khalil Herbert, other running backs in this backfield that were getting usage and taking away from his upside. Now we don't have that. DeAndre Swift is a must start. He had 4 or more targets in 4 out of his last 6 games. Caleb Williams is only getting better. Now he gets a matchup against the Commanders, who likely are not going to have Jayden Daniels, but they do allow the 4th most yards per carry this season and are 12th in explosive run rate allowed. He is the RB15 in total running back volume, and I fully expect the Bears to pour on the offense onto the Commanders, regardless of if Jayden Daniels is playing or not. This is a get-right game for them to prove that Caleb Williams is a top 2, even top 1 Rookie of the Year candidate. And while we can't trust the Broncos offense, we 100% can trust Javonte Williams with our whole heart in this matchup against the Panthers. 16, 13, 6, and 14 carries over the last 4 weeks with 18 targets total in that stretch. The usage has been absolutely amazing for Javonte when the Broncos control games. This matchup against the Panthers, there's no reason they should not be able to do that. The Panthers are allowing the number 1 most fantasy points and success to running backs this year, the most efficiency. They've allowed the most yards and touchdowns to the position as well. And you look at the Panthers side of things. They're throwing Bryce Young into this offense without Adam Thielen, without Deontay Johnson, only Xavier Legette. It's not going to be a ton of offensive success for them. Javonte will have multiple red zone trips this week and run a bunch of routes out of the backfield. I guarantee you the Broncos will be controlling this game, leading to a run-heavy script for Javonte, which is what you want to see when you're starting him in your lineup. He is 11th in missed tackles forced this year, and he is seeing the most efficiency he has since before the injury, the pre-injured Javonte Williams, which he's absolutely turned his season around from the first 2 weeks to now. Following that with Kareem Hunt, he's going to shatter fantasy leagues this week. He gets a matchup against the Raiders, who are top 5 in fantasy points allowed and success to overall running backs. Hunt has been nothing short of a workhorse running back. If you look at his game log, 14 carries in his very first game with the Chiefs when he was brought on that week. Then he follows that up with 27 and 22 carries in the last 2 weeks with 3 touchdowns in that span as well. It's only getting easier against this Raiders matchup. He's leading this team in third down snaps, red zone snaps, rushing attempts, routes run out of the backfield, everything. And it's only his 3rd week with this team. Now we have DeAndre Hopkins coming to this offense. Now, yes, he's going to be limited in his first game with the Chiefs, but him being here alone opens up this offensive opportunity and lets the Chiefs move the ball more. And there is absolutely no way that they don't go up by at least 2 touchdowns against the Raiders here, which is going to force Kareem Hunt to have a ton of usage on the ground. Another guy, a wide receiver here that will 100% dominate is going to be Darnell Mooney. Outside of the fact that he put up 9 receptions for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns on 16 targets against the Buccaneers in week 5, now he gets that same matchup again this year. When you have Drake London playing as good as he is, the wide receiver 3 in red zone targets, the wide receiver 12 in total air yards, the main defensive focus is going to be on Drake London. The number 1 corner, the defensive coverage is going to be planned on him, and that leaves Darnell Mooney to the softer side of the coverage. The same thing is happening with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Despite being the wide receiver 2 on his own team, Darnell Mooney is top 10 in routes run out of the entire wide receiver class this year. The Falcons are 6th in pass attempts and 3rd in passing yardage. There will be no lack of volume in this offense in a divisional matchup of the NFC South that they need to win to secure the number 1 overall seed. They're not going to take this lightly. The Buccaneers defense, pass defense on their own, is not great. So far this year, they're allowing the 2nd most points to quarterbacks, the 3rd most points to wide receivers, and Rashad Bateman just torched them. Lamar Jackson throwing for 5 touchdowns. That is absolutely insane. Another dominant start here is going to be Tank Dell. Some people might be against this because of what he did last week, which was absolutely nothing. But that was more of a CJ Stroud issue. He had 10 completions for 86 yards. Almost half of his pass attempts were not catchable. They were thrown into the ground. They were thrown out of bounds. Stroud was pressured on 51% of his dropbacks and saw a season-low 61% adjusted completion percentage. The Packers defense, they pressure and they're good at it. And they get a matchup now against the Colts, who are the complete opposite of that. They are 30th in quarterback pressure rate and allow a ton of deep balls and big plays. They are top 5 in big plays allowed to opposing offenses. Dell is a top guy in this offense still, regardless of last week. Without Nico Collins in those 2 weeks, he is 1st on the team in first read target share at 38.5%. Yes, with Stephon Diggs playing, he is 6th in total wide receiver separation on the year and top 5 in win rate on his routes run against single high safety, which is a look that the Colts like to play. The Colts are allowing the 12th most receiving yards to outside wide receivers, and the Texans are coming for their next, another divisional matchup where they want to win and secure a good seed. We also need to be starting Stephon Diggs. He's a must start. If you guys haven't seen the wide receiver and running back tier videos of who to start and sit, I'll pin it in here somewhere. You guys can check that out. He's going to be started, but you're obviously going to be doing that anyways. Following that with Jalen Waddle, this one may be a little bit more risky for some people, which is understandable because of the circumstances of this offense. But once Tua comes back, it absolutely changes everything. Waddle has been a top 20 wide receiver in 4 out of his last 5 games with Tua in week 1 and the last weeks of last season. He has a great overall matchup against the Cardinals corners, who they do not scare anybody. Last week, they just allowed Justin Herbert to go for 349 yards and a Chargers offense that is dead last in passing attempts this year. And they didn't even have Quentin Johnston, so they were at that much of a disadvantage. The Cardinals allowed the 7th most fantasy points to wide receivers this year. They should see immediate success with Tua coming back into this offense. Tyreek is also questionable. If he, for whatever reason, doesn't play, that's going to put even more volume on Jalen Waddle's plate to dominate with. And if he does play, I'm still not worried. It's again a Jamar Chase and T. Higgins situation where Tyreek has no option but to force the toughest coverage and leave Jalen Waddle all by himself on the other side of the field. Following that with a tight end, I have, honestly, to be the tight end one this week is David Njoku. He is going nuclear this week. He gets a matchup against the Ravens, who allowed the 5th most points to opposing tight ends this year. There is absolutely no way that he goes under 10 targets in this game with Jameis Winston at quarterback. Yes, he might be a bad NFL quarterback and not too great, not a winning guy. But in fantasy football, he is one of the best in fantasy points per pass attempt. The Browns are 1,000% going to be playing from behind and playing catch up against the Ravens. They're probably going to go up by 2 touchdowns early, leading to no choice but to have a very pass-heavy script. And that's what the Browns already do. They're 8th in passing attempts with Deshaun Watson. That's not going to change with Jameis Winston that loves to pass the ball even more. Njoku is going to have a plethora of volume and targets. Now that we don't have Amari Cooper in this offense, he's going to eat. Thank you guys for watching this video. I appreciate you. I will see you in the next one, and make sure to comment any questions you have as far as start sits.